Welcome to Diamond Effect Podcast, episode 154. And today we have a special episode because I have a guest with me, and it's one of my clients, Gabriele Pizzale. Welcome, Gabriele. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview with me.
My pleasure, Maggie.
Hey, awesome. So I would love for you to introduce yourself and also talk a little bit about your business and story because you're a very established business owner. You've done it for a long time. So we would love to know how you got started and how your business progressed.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Gabriele Pizzale. I'm the owner and CEO of Pizzale Design Inc. We're an award-winning design service in Oakville, Ontario. And my business started 30 years ago. And so it was interesting because my background's actually in fashion design. That was my first love. And after I worked in that industry for a while, I kind of fell in love with the interior design field. And so in the beginning, I focused really on all things fabric, like upholstery, drapery, things I was very comfortable and knowledgeable about. And as I was in the industry, I met some really skilled contractors who basically taught me about building. And soon clients were asking my input in their renovations. And eventually my business grew and grew, and I was able to hire some trained interior designers who have degrees all in interior design. And that allowed us to really expand and do big renovations and new builds. So that's where we are today. I have a team of 4. I have a project manager and 3 designers.
And I love that because I guess that's one of your strengths, right? That combination of that creativity that you bring to the table, and of course your team as well, but also I guess the technical knowledge and technical experience that then comes into working with contractors and delivering the projects.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I would love for you to think a little bit about what were the main stages of your business growth. Because I always say we start and there's one stage and then we start growing and then we have that growth and then there's a business maturity. So how did that look like for you?
Okay. So I've always been sort of the mind you walk before you run. I've always been a little on the cautious side, I would say, and I think that served me well. So for probably, I'd say, so being in business 30 years, I'd say the first 15, I really just figured it out on my own, which I don't necessarily highly recommend. And where the real pivotal point was, a leader in our industry was doing some seminars and basically sharing how she was able to really grow her business. And the things that I learned from her have made all the difference. So the biggest thing is having a very structured process. So most of us, doesn't matter what business, we all say, but everything's different. Every client's different. Every project's different, but it's not really true. There are similar things in everything that you do or bring to every project you touch, and you have to figure out what those are and make that a clear process, because then you know what you're doing. You sound very confident and knowledgeable to your clients, plus your clients know what you're doing. And then even more so, once you have staff, your staff now know what is the process? How do we go about getting to the end goal? So for me, that was huge. And again, coming from a fashion background, I didn't have a business background like somebody like you, Maggie, who has really sound business ethics. I didn't have that. I just treated people how I wanted to be treated, but it which is good, but it certainly isn't the be all and end all. So learning a structured process, figuring out what that is, and then that gave me the confidence to build what I'm worth. And then the other thing I think that would be a very pivotal thing for me, and this happened coincidentally at the same time, which is another one of my beliefs is when you are ready, the teacher shows up, is that there was a software that came out in Canada specifically made for interior design. So it allowed us to do all our bookkeeping, our invoicing, but also project management, which is huge because you literally could have 1,000 or more individual pieces in a project. And how would you ever keep track of what they are, who's the manufacturer, what's the price, what have you billed, what have you paid for? It's an impossible task unless you have something really streamlined. And by having that, it gives you the confidence to say, sure, we can do an 8,000 square foot new build, no problem. And be able to execute it perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I always say. There's like people, technology, and processes, and they all have to work together, right? And as you say, if you can systemize at least 80% of what you're doing, and then 20 or 10, depending on your business, becomes this custom special for each client, it's
Mhm.
impossible to scale because you can do special at scale. And as you say, once you start having stuff, it's impossible for them to remember, right? And then mistakes come in and the quality suffers and all those things, not only even your ability to serve a certain amount of clients, it becomes limited. So those are great
And they
points.
also don't know what to do, because
Yeah.
that's one of the things I see with some of my competitors or friends that have businesses, and they struggle with giving their staff direction on what is it that is your job. And if you don't know what your process is, how can you possibly direct them properly into, this
Exactly.
is what I'm going to do, this is what you're going to do, but these are all the things that have to get done. Now let's split up who's going to do what. And it's crystal clear. So that's a huge thing to learn in your business and
Yeah.
do well.
Yeah. It's all connected, and you definitely do it well. And that's why your projects get executed, right? Like
Yeah.
the highest level. So another thing that you do pretty well, if I like look at other business owners, even some of my clients, when they come to me and we start working, is, you know, managing your business and life and doing, and I'm not saying like, oh, perfect balance, because what does that mean, right? But when you're a leader of your business and then you're a leader of a team, we're all human beings, right? We have professional lives and we have personal lives. So there's always things happening. Maybe they're happening in your business and maybe personal life is okay. And then they're happening in your personal life and then business is okay. Sometimes everything is happening at once, right?
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? Because sometimes, especially the newer entrepreneurs, they sometimes tell themselves, oh, I'll do that in my business when, kids are out of school or when this happens and when there's this perfect moment, which really never arrives. And I always say, you gotta learn how to handle both. So you're great at it. How do you do it?
Okay, so actually, I think back when I first started, and somebody gave me this just a snippet of advice in a casual conversation, and they said, "Is how you start is how it's going to go," and that made a big impact on me. That's comes from billing, and it comes from hours you work. If you don't want to work weekends, don't work weekends, because as soon as you do it as a favor for a client, they'll tell their friends, and you'll be known as the person that works weekends or the person that gives a deal. So I was lucky in that way that I always had very clear boundaries of work and home life. And the other thing is, again, my son was an infant when I started my business. So I had to be home for him when my husband worked. And my husband worked every Saturday. So I might have worked Saturdays, but I couldn't.
Mhm.
And then Sundays was our only day as a family, so that I also didn't work. And so
Mhm.
30 years later, I still don't work weekends. And I don't think you need to. I mean, I did work evenings for many years because certain people could only see me then. But I made it work. And then the other thing that I did was always schedule time for myself for working out or, getting your hair done or whatever. I never, you have to schedule that just like you schedule any other client appointments. And
Yeah.
just, you have to, and I think the busier you are, the more important that is. And schedule ahead. So like if I go for a massage, I book the next one a month out. I don't wait till, oh my gosh, my back is killing me, I need to go today. You're not going to get in. And then you don't have time. So just always book things ahead of time. Same with my hair appointment. Book the next one. And then it's there and you plan your rest of your schedule around it.
Around it. Yeah, I do the same, right? I was just at the chiropractor today and like I booked my next appointment there. And it comes down to prevention, right? Because when
Right.
you prevent it, you don't have as many emergency things,
That's
right?
right.
Like it doesn't
That's
mean emergencies don't happen, but when you are proactive about whether it's your own health or business for that matter, then
Yeah.
you have less emergencies.
Yes.
So talking about self-care, you know, same, you're pretty good at making sure that your cup is full. So then you can handle all the different demands, whether it's your personal life or business life. So was it always like that, or did you always know how to do that? And if not, how did you learn to do that? And maybe you can share with us some like self-care routines or systems that you have that really work well for
Sure.
you.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So I was always pretty good at it. And a couple of years ago, like I'm an only child with two elderly parents, so I'm their primary caregiver. They're
Mhm.
both in facilities, different facilities, of course, just to make it more complicated for me. And I felt, I needed to go every day. So I would go every day after work. And very quickly, my body said, yeah, that's not happening. And I
Mhm.
fainted and got a concussion and whiplash. So that taught me, even though you can physically do something, it doesn't mean you should be doing it.
Mhm.
And you've got to take care of yourself first. It's the same as in an airplane. You put your own oxygen mask
Mhm.
on before you help somebody else. So in that example, I reached out, I hired some PSWs, so I don't have to go every day. They do have somebody visiting them. It's not me. I go, I have, again, a very rigid schedule. So I think
Mhm.
one of my strengths is my routine. Some people say that's a boring way to live your life, and I say it's a great way, because I know Monday is my gym night. Tuesday, I visit my mom. Wednesday, I visit my dad. Thursday is my day to do massage or hair or whatever the heck I want. Friday, I visit my mom. Saturday is my day, and Sunday, so and every week is the same. So
Mhm.
what stresses a lot of people out is when you have to figure out how you're going to fit all this in. But if your Mondays are always the same and your Wednesdays are always the same, um, it's easy. You're on autopilot and you
Yep.
don't have to think. It's Monday, so I must be going here. And of course, that can change. Like all of a sudden, I get this fabulous invitation to a golf tournament, or I'm on vacation, or whatever. That's fine. But in my normal day-to-day life, these are absolutes. I do the best for my family, and I still do the best for me. And for me, that's what self-care is making sure that I get the things that I need. I get my time, and I, still make sure everyone else is taken care of.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with you on that. Like, we think that, oh, when we don't have, when we, or we, many people do, like, when they don't have things planned or scheduled, it's like, oh, it's boring. But it's not. It's structured. And as human beings, we actually operate well under structure. And
Mhm.
to have a successful business that delivers predictable, consistent results, it has to be boring in a sense where there are certain things that are predictable and systemized because there's enough unknown and there's enough things that will happen anyways, that if you add that to the chaos, if you don't have a structure, it's impossible to have a successful business, right? And then the thing is, when you have a successful business, then you can go on vacation and have
That's right.
fabulous vacation or have fabulous weekends, right? When you have time for yourself or do things. But like, in a way, there is some boring. I don't think it's boring. I think
No.
it's
That's
stress
what people have
reducing
said to me,
and like,
right? And
yeah,
again, I disagree because it takes the stress out of it. To your point,
exactly.
like
Yeah.
being a business owner, like I always say, even if myself and my team did everything perfect, something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Somebody, a contractor, a supplier, a manufacturer, somebody's going to drop the ball and make a mistake. Like there is not a project that's ever perfect. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So when you're also in chaos, forget it.
You
It
can't
just
handle that,
it,
right?
you can't you
Handle
can't
it
do
with
it.
the best. Yeah, exactly. And of course that will happen because I always say as humans, we're not perfect.
No,
Therefore, anything we do will never be perfect. We can get really good at it. And that's when we're prepared and professional structure, we get really good. So then when things go sideways, we can handle it well.
that's right.
But when
And
we
it's not an everyday occurrence. It's a once in a
exactly,
while.
exactly,
And if
exactly.
and if I can share one more thing too,
Yeah.
that I hear a lot of business owners struggle with is when they go on vacation and they can't unplug. And so I say to that, that's why you have staff
Yeah.
and let them do the work. So, but you have to empower them. So I've had staff like I would say 10 years, 10, 15 years now.
Mhm.
And what I tell them is if I'm going out of the country for 2 weeks or whatever, don't bug me.
Yeah.
So, but here's the parameters for that. If something goes south, if a client gets something and it's damaged, broken, or they got the wrong thing or whatever. And if it's our fault, if it's my client or my company's fault, fix it. Don't ask questions, just pay for it, fix it. You don't need to ask me, do it. If something goes wrong, but it was the client's doing, as in they changed their mind or whatever, then they'll have to wait till I come back, because that is out of the realm. And if it's something really horrible, terrible, scary, like, oh, like a big disaster, then message me, call me. But other than that, and honestly, nobody has ever had to call me in all the years, because they have the tools to deal with the situation as they come up. And it's worked beautifully. And so I'm just a big believer that when you're on holidays, you should be on holidays. You should be present with the people that you're with. You should disconnect and give your brain time to readjust. And that's when you're most creative, is when, you know, sometimes the best idea is coming to you when you're not thinking about it.
Yes,
So that's
100% agreed. 100% agreed. I actually did, I think there is a podcast episode on it from last year, somewhere in July, about that, like 5 reasons why when you take holidays and you disconnect, it actually serves you in your business.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And I'm glad you talked about it, because we're right, you know, at the
Right in there. Yeah.
at the vacation season.
And it's the thing that comes up so often. Like when I talk to other business owners, they're like, oh no, I check my email every day. And I think, wow.
Yeah, no. And I don't believe in that either. Like, then you're not really resting, you're not really working, and it becomes this half in, half out, and that doesn't serve anybody.
That's right.
So I'm 100% agree with you on that. Okay, so that another question that I have is, you've worked with different coaches. So, you know, we worked together and I wasn't your first coach. And because you know, and you've been telling me like you love to learn and you've been investing in your skill sets. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about the benefits you have seen in learning and investing in yourself and getting coached, or learning any other way over the years.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question, Maggie. So I love to learn. I think if you're not, you know, improving, you're declining. So it doesn't matter what stage your business, there's always something to learn, and it's something you also alluded to earlier. Business is a stage. So when you're first starting out, your struggles are one thing. Then you figure that out, you get to the next level, but guess what? Now you have new struggles. And then and so on and so on. So every time you get to the next level, you need to learn a new skill set. And as an entrepreneur and, you know, owner, you don't always have somebody to bounce things off of, or it might be your family and friends and they don't really know. So they're not giving you good advice. So again, a coach is a professional, and they teach you things you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. Right. So that's the beauty of, think of any professionals, that we have the years of experience. And in coaching, where I think, you know, your services were so valuable to me, is you don't just coach interior designers, you coach a vast amount of industries, and each industry, though is different, there might be a practice in another industry that's so valuable for me to hear. It's like, oh, I never thought of that. Because again, most of my friends are in my industry, and we share and we help each other, but it's the same story. So by having your skill set and experience from all over, and also hearing things, you know, what's going on in the market and all that, it's very valuable. And also, you know, being in business for 30 years, I mean, I never think that I know it all. I know I don't. And there's always struggles, even if, you know, over the last few years, I wouldn't say my business has grown much, as far as, you know, we haven't added new staff or anything, but the market's really changed. So you have to act differently and react differently. And how do I do that? And by having a coach, it's another pair of eyes. And really to sort of make you look at things in a new light. And that's invaluable. And somebody that's on your team, and somebody that's extremely experienced and knowledgeable and has, you know, the business nuances behind them.
Yeah. And you know what? I love that you mentioned that, like, knowing what's happening in other industries is valuable, because sometimes people get stuck in the box and say like, oh, I only want to work with that person because like you're, you know, like health related and so on. But I always say, actually, when you know business and a bit of a history, the biggest, like, or not the biggest, but there's many inventions or innovations in one industry that actually came from the other industries,
Right,
right? If you
right.
never look outside of your box, whether it's your own business or your own industry, you don't know how much value or what else you could be doing, what else could you be improving that somebody is already doing,
That's
just
right.
in a different box.
Yeah. Don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like there's lots of
Exactly.
great ideas and processes and things to learn from others. So yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So, as we're getting to the end of the interview, I would love for you to tell everybody where people can find your company or maybe reach out or where you guys are, available, where they can connect with you. And also, if there was anything else that maybe you wanted to mention that we didn't touch on that you would think it would be valuable for the listeners, I would
Sure.
appreciate it.
So the best way to find us is either via our website or Instagram, and it's the same. It's pizzaledesigninc.com. So pizza, Pizzale, and then design Inc. as incorporated, .com. And we are, as I said, located in Oakville. We have I think, a great website. It really shows our beautiful projects. We do both commercial and residential.
Mhm.
And we also recently added a blog, which is kind of fun and
Right?
informative. And also there's, it talks about our process on there.
Mhm.
So which, again, will just show you that we are very conscientious and very organized. And we, again, have done literally hundreds of renovations. We know exactly what's going to happen next. Where's the pitfalls? What does the contractor need from you? How do we get through this process as quickly, painlessly as possible and have the most beautiful end result for you and your family to enjoy for years to come?
That's awesome. And I will put all that information in the show notes and then wherever we post it, we'll share that so it's easily found. Well, thank you very much, Gabrielle. I really appreciate it. I do.
Thank you, Maggie. It was great.
Thank you.
Thanks.